Hello, everybody. I'm back here with the CGO Gets to Know series. I'm very excited to be speaking with Calum Roach. We've talked at length about challenges around reporting, accuracy of the data that drives these reports, and significantly where this is relevant is it when it comes to regulatory governance and in financial services. So, Calum, it'd be great for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us a little bit about the client that you've been working on and some of the challenges that they've been having.
Hi Dan. Yes, thanks for having me on this series. So yeah, I'm Calum. I'm a manager here at Dufrain. This is actually my 10th year at Dufrain, so I've been here a long time now. And yeah, I've worked on a number of kind of data governance related projects for clients. I guess one of them in particular I was going to touch on today was around the regulatory reporting project that I worked on for a financial services client. The business problem there being that there's a new head of data had come into the area. There's a number of regulatory reports that they were one of the key signatures for before that went out to the regulator. And a lot of these reports have kind of been built up over time. There's lots of different people involved, and then there was no kind of clear, consistent framework or, a clear audit trail for that head of data to have that confidence to say, how can I be confident in signing this off because I don't have all the information necessarily available to me to make that decision right now. So they wanted to get that confidence when they were applying that sign off. Not to say that there's anything wrong with what was being done. It just wasn't all under a consistent framework.
Right.
So we were asked to kind of go in and first of all just audit the existing regulatory reporting estate. What reports were there, what controls were currently in place, and then design a new governance framework over that. That would in future, make sure that there was a consistent control framework and there was full auditability from kind of sourcing the data to the submission to the regulator. And once we kind of created that framework, we were able to then remediate those reports and bring them into compliance with that new framework that we created. So this, gave the client that confidence that yes, when we're signing off this data, we can be confident that we've done everything we can to make sure that it's accurate and delivered to the regulator on time.
And obviously the consequences of delivering data that's not accurate, not right, and reporting that's not right obviously has a massive impact on how that financial organization is looked at by the regulator. So the consequences are significant. So it is all about confidence. It's exactly what you kind of underlined there. It's about giving the client confidence of what they're sharing. And I think that's any reporting, at any point, any CFO that I talk to, our own CFO will be telling you that I really need to trust the data. I need to know that it's accurate. But we've talked about this at length, that governance is often seen as a chore, and it sometimes struggles to get investment from the board around, about where they put their spend in terms of data. Often the more kind of attractive stuff, more modern stuff gets kind of the share of the budget. And so I think from one of the things that's happened in the last few years is that the importance of accurate data feeding into models that are generating AI, whether that's unstructured data, whether that's structured data, the importance of accuracy there is becoming really real in terms of beneficiary terms. Talk to me a little bit about how you've seen that kind of weave into our clients at the moment.
Yeah, so I think the whole AI governance is going to be, well, is already huge, but it's going to get bigger, going forwards. I think we've seen the last couple of years the rise in large language AI models, natural language processing, that type of thing. So like the ChatGPT and I know a lot of people are using these tools as kind of almost like efficiency tools when working. So it's like having your own PA. And something I kind of expect to see more of, I think, is the rise in having natural language kind of front ends for querying data. So if you think of kind of like your C-suite, your execs, or anyone in an organization, being able to ask a question of your data and get a response using kind of these AI models. And I think the challenge with that is how do we govern that effectively? We can see the legal ramifications, for example, of, these models have access to, say, HR data, and then that's being exposed to the wider business. There's a whole there's a whole series of different scenarios that you can envisage coming out of this if we don't effectively govern AI as it becomes more common in kind of the workplace and built into the different processes and data and the way we query data in future.
And so do you see that governance as being, use of the technology as one thing, and processes put around that, guidance put around that, which everybody's arriving at this at the same time? That the business, the individuals within the business, they're using it both personally but also within their work life. It's very difficult. Everybody's coming together at the same time and seeing the value of the technology. So that's one thing, the process around actually use of the technology. But then the underlying data, the kind of data that feeds into that technology, which we keep telling clients the most valuable aspect of that is your own data, the data that you're collecting, whether that's on your people, whether that's HR systems, whether that's on your customers, whether that's on your systems or supply chain. And that's what's super important. But accuracy then becomes really important. So how do you put governance around that? What goes into those models? It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, data quality it's always been a challenge. It will be continue to be a challenge, I think, especially for AI. The accuracy and of these models will only be as good as the data that goes into it at the end of the day. So yeah, like anything, the more we can do to improve that data, I guess any organization who's looking, who wants to incorporate AI in future and has that on their roadmap, the foundation of that is getting your data into position into a quality level that that will power the AI, that will power AI in future. It's fundamental that we get that right before we start thinking of anything else.
And in your seat, do you see any change in the way that we've been approaching helping clients get their data house in order and when it comes to quality? Or do you think that the kind of basics that need to be there aren't going to change, that the principles need to be the same?
I think a lot of the principles are the same. Again, we're in a world where every year the amount of data that we store, we process, goes up. But at the same time, I guess the technology, the data tools, the data platforms that we have available are much more capable of handling these things. We get a lot more inbuilt tools, especially around quality and monitoring of our data lakes, of our data warehouses. So we do have those tools available to us. But yeah, I think it's very much the same problem that's always existed. Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about, and I think this leads nicely onto a conversation I think that you and I had when we first met, which was around helping clients put a value against even down to individual sets of data, and how that can that if it's accurate, the value that has on the downstream value chain. We talked about the data value chain a little bit, and how it's difficult to put that value in place, and it has been for a long time. But we're now starting to see clients do that. We're now starting to do that for clients. Talk to me a little bit about kind of the things that we're developing.
Yeah, so something that I've been interested in is, as you kind of say, is that data value chain. So I've been kind of working on building some methodologies and frameworks to look at how I suppose the problem being, how does X activity over here, for example, some kind of data project, maybe it's a project to address data quality. How does that impact, an outcome on this side? Whether that be, some kind of key business KPI or, your bottom line. And data's always been, I guess, the value of data and stuff has always been quite nebulous, like how.
Yeah.
But if we can measure that, if we can apply kind of a scientific methodology for that, put some figures behind it, and we can understand that value and the value delivered, the return on investment, that type of thing, we can much more effectively manage our data assets and prioritize, the work that we want to do. Making sure we're prioritizing the projects that give us the most value in terms of outcome. And I think it's a problem I'm sure that all CDOs have, any data leaders have as well, is being able to articulate the kind of the value that they expect to get from projects that they are trying to get funding for. If we can put a value on data and on the expected return from projects, those clear outcomes are going to help us, unlock that funding and make it much easier to kind of tell those stories.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think actually historically, what I've found coming in the background that I've come from, personalization projects, marketing projects, sales projects often get the kind of the attention because the upside of data quality is so transparent, and it's so visible in that, and it's an easy thing to mistake against that. But particularly when it comes to analytics and reporting, those are often pushed further down the kind of priority because it's not so easy to demonstrate. But I think if we can put a value against that, and if you make that really transparent for a business, that'll bump up what are probably just as highly valuable projects in the decision process of where a customer invests. So really interesting, I think a really interesting topic. Calum, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I look forward to hearing more about how our kind of value chain products develop and how we help clients going forward. So I'm sure we'll be talking further in the future. But once again, thank you for joining the CGO series, and looking forward to continuing to work together.